Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all so much for taking the time to be on our webinar this afternoon. I'm really excited to be able to be going over the Southwest Florida new construction opportunities with all of you. This is a really exciting presentation. Florida, has been a market that has shown a lot of growth and development, especially over the last few years. So I'm going to be covering a brief intro on the company, and then you're going to be hearing from our top Florida agent, Jerry Robinson, who I will introduce shortly. We've established some really great relationships with builders in the Florida market and are able to provide many new construction opportunities to our investors, which Jerry's going to be covering a little bit later in the or throughout the presentation this evening. So before we go any further, I just want to make a quick introduction. So my name is Vince Tomich. I'm an advisor here at Marshall Reddick, and I work out of our Newport Beach office in California. My primary role as an advisor is to learn as much as I can about each individual investor and help guide you through the process to achieve your investment goals. There's many steps in the home buying process, and I'm here to assist from essentially our first call all the way until post-closing. There's going to be a number of team members from agents, lenders, property management, and I help make those connections and field questions along the way. So yeah, just a little bit more specifics about me. I was born and raised here in Southern California, been in the real estate industry now for over 7 years, and I'm a big fan of practicing what I preach. I'm an investor myself. I use Marshall Reddick for property management. I'm an investor in our private lending department, so definitely an employee who can assist, but also a fellow investor that we can kind of talk shop and work through some of those scenarios that you folks may be working through yourself. So I know there's probably a handful of folks here that are familiar with Marshall Reddick and know the company very well, and then there might be a handful of folks that this is their first presentation. So I always like to take this opportunity to explain who Marshall Reddick is and what we do. So in summary, basically there are 4 primary services that we focus on. We have our real estate brokerage, our property management, our private lending, and our investment fund. So just to break those down a little further, for real estate brokerage, we help people buy and sell real estate, whether it's a primary residence or an investment property. For property management, so 99% of the folks that end up buying an investment property are going to need property management. And we cover everything from A to Z on that front. So anywhere from marketing the property to doing showings to background checks on tenants, placing the tenants, any kind of maintenance requests, move out inspections. We do all of the tax forms at the end of the year to give to the landlords. Basically, like I said, everything from A to Z, so that you could focus on what you need to do as a primary wage earner. For our private lending, so essentially we have there's kind of 2 clients here. There's people who borrow money and there's people who lend money. But the folks that borrow money are going to be your fix and flippers, people who are looking to kind of quote unquote, need hard money. Or those individuals who have self-directed retirement accounts that are looking to buy properties in that self-directed retirement account and need non-recourse financing. So those are examples of lenders, people who borrow money from us. It's very different than a conventional lender, but there is definitely a lot of reasons that one would use our private money lending. Now, on the flip side of that, and this ties into our investment fund, the same way that we help folks invest in real estate, we give our investors the opportunity to invest in mortgages. So you can be the bank, you can be a lender and get a return. So instead of having a renter and collecting a rent check, you can be a lender and collect a mortgage payment. So there's a lot of benefits to that, right? It's a lot more of a passive type of investment, a lot more straightforward, and there is plenty of options, right? Whether it's direct lending where you're funding one mortgage, or you may be interested in funding or being part of our mortgage fund, where it's a pooled investment and you are part of a much larger fund than where you get quarterly distributions. So that's a little bit about, you know, our services, but ultimately my goal is to make the process of investing as seamless as possible by educating and introducing our key players that work with us to make the whole process work. Here's a quick snapshot of the markets that we operate in. We're in 16 markets across the country. Tonight, we're going to be focusing our presentation on the Southwest Florida. You'll see that there are many offices, or there are multiple cities here, and some of them have a green box around them. That is where Marshall Reddick has an actual footprint in. So those are places where we have boots on the ground folks that can help. Here's another kind of visual of that, where we have property management, real estate agents. We have all of our vendors that we work very closely with. So these are all markets that we have a very hands-on and complete approach in. Now, how did we choose these markets, right? So I think, it's safe to say that, not every market in the country is a, top market to invest in. So we've taken the time to vet out specific markets that we want to focus on. So we've put together some key criteria that we feel support a strong investment market, which is, includes the list in front of you, right? Strong job market. We want to make sure there's good rental demand, economic diversity, right? We don't want to just go to a city where there's only one type of employment or one thing going on. Housing affordability, right? So for those of you that are in Southern California, you understand, it's tough to make investments work here oftentimes just because of where the prices are. Good education, good schooling, right? That's important. And then ultimately reliable property management, which fortunately we manage properties in all of the markets that we operate in. So that's an easy fit for a lot of folks. Now that I've covered a little bit more about the company, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jerry Robinson. As I mentioned, Jerry is our top Florida agent. He's a wealth of knowledge. I've worked with Jerry personally on many transactions, and he's going to be able to dive in a bit deeper of some of the new construction opportunities we have. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Jerry.
Hey, thanks, Vince. Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for joining us tonight on a new construction in Southwest Florida. Little intro with me. I'm a licensed broker associate here in Cape Coral or Southwest Florida, kind of the center of the area here. I'm also a licensed real estate instructor, so I get to teach the new up-and-coming agents that are coming onto the market and work with some of the best of them. My focus primarily has always been in multifamily and commercial real estate. I started in the apartment industry prior to getting my license, managed quite a few doors up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and decided to make the jump over to originally property management and then over into sales, where I've been able to run the team here. So a little bit about me. Let's move on. There we go. All right, so tonight's topic, new construction, especially in our market where our growth has been absolutely phenomenal, especially over the last 5 to 7 years. So Southwest Florida has grown leaps and bounds. It started with the rebound of the recession back in 2008, 2009. Since about 2011, investors have been choosing Southwest Florida as a great place, right? We have a high rental demand here, never without the need for rentals. And as we've grown, it has appreciation in these properties, rental rates, everything else has grown with it. We've seen actually appreciation rates in homes right around 30% over the last 12 to 18 months. We've also seen a gap between resale and new construction homes almost completely disappear. And so initially with the pandemic, new construction homes we had so many people coming to this area with what was going on and needing rentals and needing homes that they couldn't wait for new construction to be built. And because we weren't prepared for that big of a move in this direction, we ended up seeing a lot of resale properties being sold for over asking values, which helped kind of close that gap. And in a neutral market, usually you see a pretty decent gap between what is resale and what is new construction. That gap has kind of changed out a little bit over the last year or so as interest rates have risen a little bit, but still fairly close in comparison to other markets around the US. Seller confidence is still a little high with some, but we're seeing those adjust as bidding wars tend to go away a little bit on the resale side. So new construction is probably one of the best places for an investor to be in the area, primarily because we have enough that is building and we're able to stay up with the demand now. But some of the big benefits that we look at when I have conversations with my clients, and I'm sure Vince does too, is why choose a new construction? You usually pay a little bit more for them, but the benefits come out on things that are less readily available on paper. So new construction properties, especially those with all new stainless steel appliance packages, washer dryers in the homes, things like that. All of these things are warranted right out the gate, usually between a 3 to 5 year window, plus a builder warranty for the first year on just about anything that goes wrong in the house. So that can be light switches, that can be other than your normal wear and tear items like light bulbs and AC filters. New warranties will cover pretty much everything in the home. One of the plus sides to this is that you are not having to absorb what you would on a resale property, meaning it's been used for a period of time. And while we, during inspection, everything, we like to see everything that we can. We can't always see everything, and sometimes things haven't gone bad yet, but may in the future. So we've got those surprises, right? An AC going down or well equipment going down, a water heater that starts leaking, things like that. Another side of that is that typically properties like the ones we're going to go over tonight kind of set the standard for most of the builds within that median range of properties. And so we're not trying to renovate based on what 10, 15, 20 years ago the norm was, right? New construction properties have, especially over the last couple of years, have held their value. They've only appreciated. We are actually seeing some of the 2018, 2019, 2020 and up properties of identical models being listed and sold for at least what new construction is going for. Rental rates and the idea of having a brand new property is very, very appealing. We have a lot coming to the market. So these newer properties tend to rent out much faster and maintain renters for a longer period of time, right? They like that new car smell, I guess. We tend to see less turnover, meaning most people that are moving into these are typically in there for about a 3 to 5 year range on the new construction, because they don't have to worry about any of the additional maintenance things that they would usually see on the home initially. We also see a higher rental rate, and one of the reasons that I like to point that out is because of the standards that are kind of set in the rental market right now. Higher rental rates usually garner a higher quality tenant, and that's what we see all through Southwest Florida. Again, the resale values tend to be higher because they appreciate quickly, and they have been for the last 5 years. But even before that, we still average anywhere between 3.5% to 5% appreciation pre-pandemic, which is a good number to know. Well, there's a couple of places that we're going to cover this right here, but because of the growth that has happened through Cape Coral, which is kind of the central market for Southwest Florida, right? We're right smack dab between major metropolitan areas and the county in itself. We have seen through North Cape, which if you're looking at the map down there, you'll see the Pine Island Corridor, which is the orange line, running left to right up through Cape Coral. It's kind of your dividing line between North and South Cape. South Cape Coral was initially what was migrated to and everyone moved to back in the 60s, 70s, 80s. All of that land filled up and the north became, at about the year 2000, 2001, north became the next place that we started to see growth. We started a process back in about 2015 of going through a utility assessment. And what we're doing is we're taking the well and septic systems that a lot of these were built on originally, and we are converting them to a city utility setup. So they've completed actually North 1 East and North 1 West. Right now, they are actually in the process of going through where you see your North 5 and North 4 here, with full assumption rates by 2030. So the city utilities kind of have an attachment to them, right? They have an assessment. These are additional things that are going to help to benefit the property. There's a cost of these, and you will usually see an estimated value difference between properties that are well and septic right now at anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000 between well and septic and city utilities for the exact same property. Even the lots and lands that have the utility assessment already put in are seeing that difference. So you also see a dollar for dollar increase on the properties themselves. So what the assessment costs really is just an addition or an additional valuation to the properties that you have. And we're seeing both of them still being built. As we get out into the farther north, right, North 11, North 9, 10, and up that way, there's going to be, give or take, probably a 10 to 15 year span before we start to see those get put in. But they will come just as well. And like I said, everything is kind of migrated. The way the building has happened is it started in the south and it's slowly making its, I say slowly, it's actually moving pretty quick, but moving through the north. So we'll see builds in both sides of them. If you guys want to have a more in-depth conversation regarding how this system kind of works and what potential costs are if you're buying in well septic or if you've bought in city utilities, feel free to just leave a question or leave a message in the box, and we'll go ahead and respond to that after the webinar. Okay, so like I said, most of the south has filled up at this point. This again is talking about the Pine Island corridor, right? That line, that road that kind of divides the north and the south. So Cape Coral, from a landmass, we're about 120 square miles, making us the third largest city in Florida. And a lot of the south has been filled up. We're also a very young city. We've only been around since late 60s, early 70s, right? So as we've kind of expanded out into the north, we have found a need, instead of going all the way south to get to your shopping, your entertainment, your nightlife, and all these things, to use that Pine Island corridor as kind of a bridge between. So it's not such a long distance to get to something at that point. On here, pretty much over the last, actually about 3 years ago, they had purchased up the last lots that were on this Pine Island corridor. And what you see below there are some of the retail that is going in there. There's also a lot of executive buildings, some dealerships that have been put into the area. There's some multifamilies that are now coming in down on the west side of the Pine Island corridor. And then even further out as you come up Burnt Store Road there all the way to the left. So that's where we've seen a lot of the growth. And as that fills up as well, it gives something to that north, right, to help attract more people to that general area. So this is kind of an overview map right here of what Lee County looks like. And I know that I've put a lot of focus at this point on Cape Coral kind of as a whole shot. Cape Coral is in that yellow area that you see up there, close to the center of the map. The other areas that we service as a company, but other opportunities that are out there, are going to be the city of Fort Myers, which is located just to the right of Cape Coral, and then further out past that, you end up in Lehigh and Tice. As you move, if you move to the west of Cape Coral, you'll see Pine Island right there. Anybody that was following everything during Ian and Nicole that came through here would have seen a lot of talk about the Pine Island area and the city of Sanibel. Well, Sanibel and Captiva Island. As you move south there, you're going to run through South Fort Myers, Estero, Bonita Springs, Fort Myers Beach area, and then moving down a little bit further from there, you're going to start running into Naples, which a lot of people know the Naples market very well. Now, in looking at this map right here, we kind of have a hyper-local market when it comes to what type of investing is usually done where. In Cape Coral, you're primarily going to be appreciation driven. On a resale, you want to see that return come in. With Cape Coral being as young as it is and a lot of the building happening around the property, the ability for appreciation to grow is much higher. And the client base, rental rates tend to be higher out that way to offset that, so you're still able to cash flow in that area. Fort Myers, in the center of it all, is kind of a hodgepodge or a potpourri of everything that an investor can need, and that can be single family, multifamilies, commercial investing. It can be your lower end, your C and D class properties. As you move further south, it'll move into the B, then the A, and luxury properties are out that way. And then as you can continue to the right there, you'll see Lehigh Acres. Lehigh Acres, usually B and C type properties, they are more cash flow driven properties than they are ideally looking at the appreciation. Appreciation has been very, very well out there up through the last 10 years. It slowed down a little bit now. And what we usually see, especially from a rental or a renter or a leasee perspective, is that when Cape Coral becomes too expensive, for when the rents are too high in that area, it will push some of your people that will have a difficult time affording there to Fort Myers. And then from Fort Myers coming up, it will push them into the Lehigh Acres market. Lehigh still has a lot of land out there that is growing up. And if you're looking at a very long-term hold, there is a lot of opportunity that way. The rents tend to be a little bit lower, but they still cash flow very well. You also see a lot of multifamily out there. So duplex, triplex, quads. Quads are pretty much the biggest as they do right now, but as the population grows, you'll see a need for larger multifamily out there. As you move south, you're looking more into the single family realm. Some smaller duplexes, smaller older duplexes, but a lot of that's going to be single family driven. Much higher rental rates than we see in most of the other markets, but price points kind of match. The land values there are much higher moving towards Naples or moving to the south than you see on the other side of that. Another market that we service, this right here is actually just north of Cape Coral as you're heading up Burnt Store Road, coming into 41 and you run out, is Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, and Northport. I won't hit as heavy on these, but it's a very similar area. Punta Gorda in itself will have kind of a mix like Fort Myers would. Port Charlotte is actually more single family home driven. There's an older clientele of renters that are there, but they still rent very well. I will say that the price points for identical homes between the markets are give or take probably about a $30,000 to $40,000 difference in the homes. Same exact homes. The rents are reflected a little bit lower because of that. And then Northport again is more of a single family driven market. So Port Charlotte and Northport both do very well from a cash flow standpoint. Punta Gorda does really, really well from an appreciation mindset. And just some differences between Lee and Charlotte County here, and this is just kind of a breakdown of the stats for them. Millage rate is higher, obviously, than Charlotte County, right? At a millage rate of about 15.461 currently. A millage rate is only about 10 in Port Charlotte. There's still a lot of open land out that way. Land values in Lee County are a little bit higher, 50 to 100,000, whereas 20 to 50K, which is where you see that difference or that variation in price between the two. Property values in Lee County average right around 430. We're looking at 369 in Charlotte County. About 65% of the land in Lee County is estimated to have been improved at this point. A little bit higher in Charlotte County. They actually have about 78%. There's a big difference in the, and you'll see in the age, average age of resident in the populace. 48.2 is the average age of resident. So we got a younger clientele in the Lee County market than what we see as the residents in Charlotte County, which is pushing closer to 60. A lot of retirement is in that area. About a $200 difference between the rent and Lee County coming out on top for that. So they're actually very, very similar. It's just slightly higher rental turnover rate in Charlotte County, but you see a longer term tenant, which is probably what is going to account for that higher rental turnover rate, right? 21% improved land is rentals in Charlotte County currently. There's a lot of single family ownership or home ownership in Charlotte County, whereas in Lee County, we see, because there's areas that we are much closer to the water to, we end up seeing about a 44% of the improved land in Lee County is currently used as rentals. So why invest in Southwest Florida versus any other market that's out there? A couple of really, really big points to hit on that. The lifestyle obviously is great. Anybody who's in here today and has been to Florida kind of understands the side, right? The season, the sun, if it does rain, and you do get a little bit of rain during rainy season, but it's about 15 minutes from about 3:30 to 3:45 in the afternoon, and then it goes away and we got bright blue skies like you see there. Taxes down here, and we'll go through a kind of a whole list here in a minute, but taxes tend to be less here than they are in any of the other markets that we are currently in, where we look at it from a rental standpoint. So lower taxes. We're a very landlord-friendly state. Even through the pandemic and what was going on, we had a short moratorium that went on when the pandemic started. But after that, we got right back to where we were. When we are required to do an eviction on a tenant, typically our evictions run anywhere between 18 to 30 days. So that's our average. Our process is very, very easy. And judges tend to be very, very friendly towards landlords at that point. You don't pay your rent, you get evicted. It's just very cut and dry. There's no 6 months, 7 months, 8 months kind of waiting for something like that to go on. Real estate market is huge here and has been for a very long time. I've lived in Cape Coral myself for the last 24 years. It has done nothing but grow. We have actually doubled in population since the year 2000, which is, an awesome thing to be able to say. But because our population has grown so quickly here, real estate is a huge part of that, right? They have to have houses to move into. They have to be able to build. So one of our biggest industries in the area right now is construction, and has been for about the last 30 years. We have a ton of job diversity, so there are other opportunities obviously out there. Construction is only a sliver of that pie. Medical, teaching, and construction. And as of recently through the pandemic, we've noticed that we've kind of started to see a lot of tech come into the area, primarily because of the ability to work remotely. So that's just another sector that it continues to grow here. Teaching and education is a big one. Lee County alone has 109 schools for private and public in both elementary, middle, and high schools. We're also school choice, which is kind of awesome. So you don't always have to live next to the school in order to go to it. So some of the reasons why we look at the popularity of Southwest Florida and why so many investors are choosing to come down this way. We have a very low unemployment rate. Currently, it's sitting at about 2.4%. The Forbes list has listed us as the third fastest area for job growth in the nation. Again, the sectors being medical, construction, teaching, and tourism. Tourism brings a lot of money into our area every single year. We've seen some like do Airbnbs and things like that that are kind of hit and miss at that point, but there's definitely a call for real estate in our area. Median income or median household income right now is $62,240. We have estimated about 47 miles of Gulf beaches just in the Lee and Charlotte County. And then there's another and this is specifically Cape Coral, there's about 400 miles of canals. All these canals were dredged because they wanted to give everybody a waterfront property to say, or at least as many as they could possibly get to. So that's a lot of opportunity if anybody is into fishing or whatever. I know our tenants love to be on the canals. They love to be able to get out there, and they pay a premium for those properties. Like I said, 109 public, private, and charter schools throughout Lee County alone. That's not counting Charlotte, Collier, and so forth and so on. So a lot of opportunities there. And ease when you're a renter and you're looking, I want to go to whatever school it is. For a long time, it wasn't school choice. Now it doesn't necessarily matter. It just means they may have a little bit longer drive to get their kids to school in the morning. So the economy and the housing market in Southwest Florida is seeing, in Southwest Florida, it's kind of been through the whole state. I know a lot of investors have heard about Tampa and Orlando and Miami, and a lot of these markets, they got oversaturated very, very quickly. Southwest Florida was growing in that same time and continues to grow now, whereas some of the other markets have almost priced investors out of the game. Population in our area, like I said, we've doubled in the last 23 years, and jobs as well. So we're a very, Lee County especially, but Charlotte County too, and some of Collier, is a very business friendly state. We see a lot of people start up jobs, and that can be anywhere from handymen to cleaning companies to food trucks to other services, personal training and health and wellness. And you see all of these businesses kind of crop up and do very, very well here. When it comes to real estate, this is one of the nicest things about being in real estate down here and being in the property management side of it, is that the demand has always exceeded the supply in the real estate market here, right? And that's what has allowed us to continue to see an increase in rents year over year over year, right? We can't build fast enough to meet the people that are here. We've gotten a lot closer to it, but there's always more. Typical turnaround time for a property on the market right now, once completed, so move to a rent ready or ready to lease, typically about a 2-week window to have a new applicant in there. And that's going through all the application processes and everything else. So Lee County every year sees about 1.3 million tourists come through. Cape Coral and Fort Myers are kind of the center of that right there. They spend on average about 1.2 billion in our market every single year. And that's on tourism, that's on, hotels, food, wine, dining, all of the sporting events, stuff like that. So it's a big business here. So job growth rate in Southwest Florida has been about 6.2%, while the labor forces have only grown by about 1.6 annually. Remember, we have a lot of people that are coming to the state. Not all are over the age of 18, but they're aging into it, right? So currently there are, and it's always kind of been this way, is that there are more jobs than we have workers to fill them all at this time. Meaning, in the event that you ever lost a job here as a tenant, whatever the case may be, finding another job has been relatively easy. The GDP of Southwest Florida is nearly 50 billion and has grown by about 30% over the last 10 years. I said before that Cape Coral of Southwest Florida was recently ranked as Forbes as the 3rd best place for jobs in the US. Unemployment rate in the region is currently 2.4%. You have to almost go out of your way to be unemployed here. All right, central hub of Southwest Florida is Cape Coral, right? We are kind of the epicenter between It's 2.5 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes to get to Tampa, same amount of time to Orlando, and it's 3 hours to get to Miami. So we're kind of smack dab in the middle of all three of these major metropolitans. Our population in Cape Coral alone is 209,576 estimated. Somebody may have moved in today. So that's as of 2022. Again, it was sitting at 199,000 back in 2000. The Cape Coral Metropolitan Statistical Area is one of the nation's job growth leaders. And then Cape Coral again is 120 square miles, making it the third largest city in Florida. As far as land mass is concerned, and considering that there's still about 40% of that left to build on, we're going to see some serious growth for the next 20 to 30 years come out of that.
Hey, Jerry, really quick question for you. I had a question recently about the nearest airport to you guys. What city is that largest nearest airport to you?
So that would be RSW. RSW is 12 point. If I'm starting at the center of Cape Coral, it's 12.8 miles, I believe.
And it's in what RSW is in what city?
It's in Fort Myers.
Perfect.
Yep. Yeah, it's in Fort Myers. You also have Page Field, which is a smaller airport that's a little bit closer in Fort Myers, and then you also have Punta Gorda Airport, which is about 22 miles away.
Cool.
Heading up Burnstor. Yep. All right. So Southwest Florida real estate facts. Average home prices, according to Zillow Home Value Index, right? What they see sell, and they kind of monitor all the sales that go through with little attention to differences in the homes. But even still, the average is about $428,000 per home. Southwest Florida home values have gone up about 46.3% over the past year. It's actually been a really, I say year, last 12 to 18 months, it's been a really good time for us. Even going through the hurricane and the things that we've seen with that, we haven't really seen a dip in prices on new construction homes especially. Sale to list price ratio is 100%. So for a long time now, we're starting to see some of or less of the bidding wars, I should say. But properties typically go very, very quickly on our market here. I have two listings actually. I listed on Friday, and we're 6 offers in on one of them, 4 offers in on the other. And that's, 5 days out. Lehigh Acres has had an appreciation just over 94% over the last 10 years. Again, remember, as our kind of growth has come in, it pushes things out through Lee County, right? So Lehigh's appreciation predominantly because land values in Cape Coral became a little bit higher. They've moved out that way. Rental prices out there are still a little bit less, so we still have a high demand in rentals out there. The 2 listings I have actually are both in Lehigh right now. And so Lehigh Acres is in the top 10% nationally for real estate appreciation over this time frame. So one of the best U.S. cities to start a business. We've mentioned, obviously, the weather is really good. We had a winter this year. It was on a Tuesday. Other than that, it's been fun in the sun the whole time. Economic opportunities are there. Low taxes in comparison to other parts of the country. And entertainment options, right? Everyone knows that you've got Disney World and Universal and all of these theme parks that are in the area as well. But there's still a lot of other opportunities, whether it be golf, whether it be outdoor adventures, things like that. It's all here. Mentioned that we're centrally located between Orlando, Tampa, and Miami, which are the big 3. Couple of the benefits, I said we mentioned this a little bit earlier here, but we have no state personal income tax. There are no corporate franchise taxes on any capital stocks, no state level property tax assessments. It's all done by city or county. No property tax on business inventories, and we have no sales tax on manufacturing machinery and equipment. That was a mouthful. Manufacturing machinery and equipment. So just a little variation. Remember I said that each of the cities kind of have their own market. Cape Coral, like I said, we're 4037, which has been a 43.3 increase over the past year. Fort Myers is about 391, 381, older city, so they do have some older properties in there, which kind of brings them down just a little bit, but they're 41.3 increase. And then Lehigh Acres in the 320, which is still a 40% increase over the past year, right? So we've seen massive appreciation. Just some stats on what you typically see as renters in our area. This came from the Cape Coral Economic Report and neighborhoodscout.com, so you can see them on there. The average household size in Lee County is 4. I think it's actually like 3.8, but I haven't figured out how they got the 0.8 people yet. Median age is 48.8 years. The fastest growing age, and this is actually a big thing to kind of bring up, is that the fastest growing age range in Lee County right now is the 25 to 34, with the fastest declining being 65 and older. Cape Coral has a big part with that, right? Cape Coral was originally going to be designed as a large, almost retirement village for a place for you to retire and kind of, enjoy and have your waterfront properties at that point. But 60s, 70s, that's when these properties were being built, when these people were in their 40s, 50s, right? Zoom ahead 50 years, a lot of them are aging out, either going into nursing homes, or they're passing their houses down to family or grandkids. And this is where we're seeing the difference. One of the other reasons why we're seeing so many schools pop up is because the age range has kind of come down. The other nice part about the idea that they're 25 to 34 is the largest range is a lot of them are not homeowners, right? A lot of those people are renters. Our average rental increase year over year is about 3.7%. The most popular homes in Lee County right now are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and have been for a very long time, up until about the pandemic, and we're starting to see a switch over to people wanting the 4-bedroom, 2-bath mix with a 2-car garage, and we'll cover a couple of those tonight here in a sec. So, but 4.2s are one of the fastest growing right now at this time. Remote working did a lot of that. It's still, they want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, but they like having an office in their home as well. Most requested upgrades that we typically see for properties, or what renters are looking for right now, is garages. In Cape Coral, pretty much everything has a garage on it. The bigger the garage, the better. At least a 2-car preferred. 3-car is beneficial. A fenced-in backyard, because Florida is fun in the sun. We like to be outside with our pets, right? With our dogs running around throwing the ball. And because we have so much sun down here, pools are always a benefit. Little on the fence on care for them when it comes to a rental side, but they rent at a very high premium. And obviously for properties that are pet friendly, because we're outside so much, we like to bring our furry friends with us. We're going to actually talk a lot about, or I say a lot, we're going to talk a bit about one of these builders here, but so the top five builders by units permitted in Charlotte, Lee, and Collier counties as of 2020 and 2021, and honestly, these numbers have stayed the same over the last couple of years. Lennar Homes, which builds a lot of communities and CDD areas, they build about 2,900 homes a year, and a lot of times those are done in phases within the communities. D.R. Horton does both. They are in the process of actually phasing 2 properties in Cape Coral, one in Lehigh and one in Fort Myers right now for subdivisions, and then they have some non-subdivision homes and different office with them. I work with reps from both right now. Pulte Homes after that, and you'll see there's a significant drop after D.R. Horton. So D.R. Horton is at 2275 to 2300 a year in this area for permits. Pulte 1487. Pulte Homes builds things that are they're a step up from what you're usually going to see on a spec builder. They allow some customization, but because of that, their build times are also a lot slower. Brooks and Freund had 943. They primarily focus on your multifamily or commercial properties, and multifamily over 5 or more doors. JHS Builders. JHS Builders have built a lot of, Way Journey, Century Complete actually now. They built about 603 in the area. They're kind of your beginning level properties that we would see in our market. Lower end finishes, but they still do make decent rentals. All right, so this is my favorite part of all of this. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the bigger models, or what we're seeing a lot of investors when they're looking at single family new construction in the area. These are the model names are going to be the Aria, the Cali, the Boardwalk, and the Freeport. We'll show some cash sheets as to kind of what they would look like on paper. So the Aria model, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage for 3. They vary right now, so you'll see a big difference or variation in price right now, right? 348 is primarily going to be your well and septic properties. 385 is going to be your city water and sewer with assessments fully paid. They're about 1,672 square feet under air. Gross rents vary between 2,100 and 2,350. I actually just sold one of these for a client of mine and leased it up for them, helping out the leasing team on that. And he put a fence, or he's putting a fence on the property, and was able to, he net 24.25 out of that property. So not a bad rental. And I've been able to witness it firsthand at that price point in the North Cape. So that property is a well and septic property. He actually is 348 is what he paid for this. So looking at just an example, this is one that has sold. As a matter of fact, this photo right here is actually the exact model that he bought. Gives you all the specs here on the left-hand side, kind of tells you where we're looking at what's coming up right now. This has a list price of $344. Looking at a 30% down. We always put a initial repair cost. The builder does include blinds on the windows, washer and dryer, stainless steel appliances, complete with fridge and water maker, RO system when it's on a well setup. What they don't include are little things like a screen in on the back patio, which is relatively inexpensive. And then ceiling fans in each of the bedrooms is something that's highly requested. Usually recommend adding that in as you buy these properties. So, but that gives you a total, even with closing costs and everything, capital of 115. Rents on this, like I said, this one is, we average about 2350 on. And then we kind of run through all of the fixed expenses that we can see. So mortgage payments, taxes, insurance, the management fee to manage the property once it's occupied. There's no HOA fee on a lot of what you're going to see on the website. No utility costs, because utility costs get pushed off to the tenant, right? And landscaping on single family, we predominantly allow the tenant to do. So putting us in at that, it gives us fixed monthly at about $2,104 with a monthly income of just under $250 a month. If we were to estimate all the maintenance and vacancy, leasing fees, and all of that other stuff, it does drop it down a little bit. The truth is that those are kind of your ghost numbers. The maintenance, vacancy, and leasing fee, pretty much all of that goes away after your first month. And so we no longer see those as kind of a hit on the property. It gives you a 15-year projected profit of 217 with a 12.56 return on investment at the 15-year. All of these new constructions that I'm getting ready to show you, and this way I don't have to hit this on every one, they all come with a 10-year structural warranty, a 1-year builder warranty, up to 5-year warranties that can be registered when you register the appliances on the property. So you got 5 years on any damages that come with that. These homes also come with Corian cabinets, Corian countertops, the cherry wood or white or gray cabinets, deep sinks, dishwasher, and above range microwave that is in the home, tiled surrounds in the bathrooms. So there's a lot in here. It's also nice and shiny to rent. So quite honestly, it shows very, very well. One of the things that D.R. Horton also started doing is a smart home system, where they will come in and they install your Nest doorbell, your Nest AC, your Ring doorbell, and a control panel. So when someone rings the doorbell, you can actually see them. They put it on a panel in the kitchen area there. So they know who's at the door. They're able to watch the property on that side.
Hey, Jerry, you
Sure.
feel free if you want to go to the next one. But I was just, we got a question about insurance. You know, just obviously,
Sure.
you know, a lot of folks from California understand that there is, you know, potential weather complications in Florida, and wanted to get just some kind of clear understanding of the insurance and what that looks like, and if there's additional like hurricane insurance needed, or if you don't mind speaking to that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So with the insurance side of it, homeowners insurance is pretty much the same regardless to where you are. Average on these homes that we're seeing is going to be between the $1,200 and $1,500 a year range. A lot of people ask the question, is there hurricane insurance or wind insurance is what some of the insurance companies will call it. There isn't a hurricane insurance. The house is still covered through a hurricane. The difference is the deductible that is paid. Usually what ends up happening on a hurricane is during the hurricane, or if the damages are caused by force majeure, right? An act of God. So hurricane, tornado, whatever the case may be. Luckily, we don't have a lot of tornadoes down here. Very, very rarely do we ever see one. But during a hurricane, you'll usually see a deductible that's about 2% of the purchase price of the property. Your same insurance policy would actually hold. It's just the deductible would change. So if your normal deductible, you figure is anywhere, I've seen deductibles anywhere from $500 to $2,500 a month on a $350,000 property. If it's a 2% deductible, the deductible at that point would be $7,000. Honestly, well worth it at that point in the event that there was any major damages to the property. The other side to hit is because we're so close to the coast, you have 4 different flood zones in our area. Usually my recommendation is to stay out of the A and AE flood zones when possible. Unless you find a property you absolutely love and it's going to make money hand over fist, I usually recommend staying out of an A or an AE. Those properties require flood insurance. Flood insurance is kind of a moving target right now. I personally, I own a home. I live in an AE flood zone. It used to be that elevation made a big difference, but when FEMA came in and redrew their flood maps, they kind of changed that. Flood insurance for me, prior to the hurricane, was about $1,800 additional over my homeowners a year. After the hurricane, I actually just received notice on this. My flood insurance jumped up to $2,600 a year. And it's not a major difference, but when you're looking at it from the idea of a cash flow standpoint, you know, it does kind of eat into that. Primarily when we're trying to find properties for our clients, especially new construction, being in an X flood zone does not require. You can obtain flood insurance. It's usually cheap. It's about $600 to $900 a year. You can get it in an X flood zone, but there's no requirement from a lender in order to get it. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So the next one that we're actually going to here is going to be our Cali model, which is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1828 square foot. These, again, they vary in price, right? So we're looking, there we go. So 364 to 404 is the average. Sometimes they'll run a special on the properties, or like right now, they're giving incentives using a preferred lender. They're giving up to $15,000 towards closing costs or to buy down rates, things like that on top of already discounted properties. 1828 square feet under air. The average rents are between $2,300 and $2,500. This particular one, Northwest Cape, just going through the specs, we got a $350 price point. Down payment, again, we're looking at ceiling fans and screening in the back patio there. That's the $2,500. Your closing costs put you at $117. Rents on this one will go for about $2,450 So this, the 4-bedroom, 2-bath, at 2450 puts us a little bit higher on the monthly cash flow or monthly income on that property at 255.75. 15-year projected is very similar to the ARIA. It's at 220, gives you about a 12.51%. And again, remember, these all come with very, very similar features: the granite, the stainless steel, the washer dryer package, the automatic garage, all of those items, plus all the warranties. And you'll see, if you're ever going through our website, typically, especially when I'm putting properties on the website, you'll notice that it'll mention the flood zone that particular property's in. This will tell you that it's located in an X flood zone, so no flood insurance would be required. This is actually a newer model to this and the next model actually sell a lot up in the Charlotte County market, but they've just brought it in for the Gator Circle market in Cape Coral. So these are 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garages. They're 320,000 is where they're starting at this point. Most are well and septic currently. I didn't have a variation to give you guys one of these on a well and septic, but figure about a $25,000 to $30,000 difference between them. 1389 square foot under air. Gross rents on this one will sit between 19 and 2100. That's actually, so I just rented one of these in our market, Northeast Cape. I got 2150 for it. So that price point is kind of itching up a little bit. I would say that we're probably going to be in the 2200 to 2250 range over the next 6 to 12 months. So again, we got list price at 319 with down payment, everything else puts us a little less for what we need, right? Put you at 106, 456 on this one. Gross rent at 2150, which is where that one had rented at. Puts us a little bit lower on the cash flow side of it. Appreciation and everything, the numbers are all percentages, so they all kind of move the same. 15-year projected is about 151 with a 9.47 return on investment in year 15. They're offering on these 14,000 in seller concessions, kind of the same as the other one was. 25 years architectural shingle roofs, all the granite counter and everything's included on these. And then the Freeport model, which is a little bit bigger, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's about just under a 1,500 square foot under air. They come in at 319.9 plus, so we've seen them listed everywhere between 319 and 339. Gross rent's a little bit higher, and they're even bumping up a little bit from that. So at 2,200 on this one, this is actually one that was very close to completion. They ran a manager's special and we were able to move it for them. This one came in at 309, put you at 103 for the investment capital needed. 2,200 in rents puts us at 288.97 as a monthly income. 15-year projected on that is about 157, and the ROI is about 10-15. So from a need basis on our rental market, I'm going to say that 4-bedroom, 2-bath is definitely a great way to go when you're in this market. For the little bit of money that you're able to save on the front end of it, the long-term ability to rent that property for a higher rent makes that up very, very quickly. All right, so if you guys had any other questions regarding our market or kind of what to expect here, the business climate, we go a lot more in depth in our market data packet. You can find it at the link down below. This will give you pretty much everything as a breakdown. And so if we are talking and you call and say, hey, I'm really liking these properties, we start talking, I would refer you to that just to give you a broad general understanding of everything in there. And then I would get into the particulars from there, or Vince actually would get into the particulars from there. So, and with that, I'm actually going to turn this over to Vince and let him kind of close out this side of it. Like I said, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, please write it into the chat and let us know so we can respond to them, and hopefully we'll have some time for some questions at the end of this.
Yeah, definitely, Jerry. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of close out this, a couple more slides here, and then hopefully we can open it up to some questions. If we don't get to those, I just want to let everybody know it's not a problem. I will be doing follow-up calls. We can get to your questions directly. We can also set up calls with myself and Jerry. So not to worry, if we don't get to your question tonight, we will definitely get it answered at some point. So yeah, feel free to type it in the chat box, and we'll get to as many as we can. Like as Jerry mentioned, this is just to show a little bit more of like the appreciation trends. So we track this data from the National Association of Realtors, and you'll see this, we're tracking from 1997, and you can kind of see those appreciation trends all the way until today, right? And, as you see, there's been some incredible growth over the last, 5-10 years. And, there is a significant correction, through 2008, Florida was hit pretty hard. But ultimately, the recovery efforts and the growth since has been, astronomical. So even those folks that bought in 2005 or 6, if you were to hold a property until then, you would have definitely been on a very high and upward trajectory, right, and made a full recovery. So with that, there is a ebook that is, I believe, on our next slide to show you where to find that. But basically, what the ebook helps describe is property classes. So what you're going to see below is just that heat chart there, and you're going to see the property classes. And basically, we go from luxury to D class. We primarily focus on luxury. To sometimes we'll get into C class, but usually we like to stay from that A or B, or sometimes get into luxury. But the way that it works is we take the median home price, which is that 100% mark. So the median home price, for example, in Fort Myers is $360. So from $360 to $468, so from 100% of that price to $130 is A class, and then you can see the associated differences from 100 to or $360 to $288 is B, and so on and so forth. And then that section below is just altering those figures a bit to assume for a price per unit when you're looking at multifamily, as the values are going to be a little bit different, and we're going per door, right? So that's something to take a look at. But yeah, you can find more data or more explanation on this in our ebook, and you can find our ebook here at www.marshallreddick.com/ebook. So you can find that. If anybody does have problems locating that, I'm more than happy to assist. As far as property management, that's our next slide here. So I just wanted to quickly cover property management. Ultimately, I think property management is the glue that keeps everything together. Closing out a 30-day escrow is something that you can work with. Basically, not everybody, not all realtors and property managers are created the same, right? So the experience for the escrow and the property management can be very different. But in my opinion, a 30-day escrow is a very short window of an experience where the real relationship is formed and kind of tested during the property management, right? You might be holding a property for 2, 4, 5, 20 years. So it's something that, you want to have a good relationship with that vendor or whoever's doing that for you, and make sure that there's a fair agreement there. So what does property management actually do? I think, ultimately, property management is responsible for knowing the rental laws, proper disclosures, and some of the main factors is ultimately we want to keep you out of court. That's the nuts and bolts. Is we want to keep folks out of any kind of legal troubles or issues that come from the tenant. Some of the things we're proud of is saying that we only make money when you make money, right? So if there's no rental income, that if the house is vacant, we're not generating a management fee, because there are property management fee or companies that will charge a management fee regardless if there's a tenant in there or not. And that's definitely, in our opinion, a conflict of interest. If you don't have urgency to go ahead and get it rented, then what's pushing them to move this along? We also use all outside vendors to do all of our work. So it's really important that we don't have an in-house property or a service team. So we go out, we get quotes, we provide those to you, and then you can make a decision, right? As opposed to being required to use us where we can earn money from your downfalls or from your maintenance issues. We don't have the ability to earn money. We subcontract all of that work out, and it's paid directly to those vendors. Really quickly here, most of the folks that we're working with are from the 1 to 4 unit range. So the monthly management fee is 8% there. You can see that it's not the lowest that you're going to find. It's also not the highest you're going to find. So we feel like it's a very fair price. and based on our services and what we can provide. I'm more than happy to go into more detail. I did want to try to get through this though, so that we can get into some questions. Basically, like I said though, if we don't get to your questions, I'm going to be doing follow-up calls tomorrow. And these consultation calls can be as short or as long as you want. Ideally, I'd like to try to figure out the who, what, when, where, and why, right? What brought you to this presentation? What are you looking to buy? Timing, right? Is it something right away? Is it something in next year, right? I'm here to help field questions and just get you in a good spot. As far as some questions, there are some that I did want to try to get to really quick. There was one that did pop up just a minute ago that I think is a very good one. And the question was regarding well and septic. So I hear some properties are on city utilities and some are on well and septic. Can you explain the difference? Jerry, do you mind jumping into that one really quick?
Absolutely. And this is predominantly well and septic is going to be found through most of Lehigh Acres. Very, very little do you see left in the Fort Myers area, right? Because the population has grown. And so well and septic is a great way to make sure that you have utilities to a property when the density of people is still relatively low because of the amount of growth that we have seen, especially through North Cape specifically. They've had to, in order to make it so people who are living out there did not run out of water, they're having to convert from city water and sewer, or excuse me, from well and septic to city water and sewer. Now, the big difference is between the two of them, right? City utilities, they get cleaned. There's a fee that gets pushed off to a tenant. When you're well and septic, you don't have a water bill, right? You'll have a septic tank that will process what comes out of the house, and a well that is typically buried anywhere between 180 to 220 feet below the surface into the aquifers underneath the land. These things work very, very well. The catch with a well and septic system is that most properties require a well softening or a water softening system, which will help pull some of the sulfur and iron and sediment out of the water before it actually enters the house. Great thing to have. These things are typically they're maintenance free for usually the first 8 to 10 years, with the exception of a requirement to add salt to the property. We usually recommend that an owner have this as kind of a proactive or ongoing service. Runs about $35 to $40 every 2 months. To have somebody come out, they drop 80 pounds of salt into the system, which helps to soften the water before it comes through. And that helps keep your pipes clean as well. You don't get the iron and the sulfur sediments into the pipes that would over time create rust and corrosion and go that way. So the big difference, honestly, is that eventually everything is going to be well and septic out there. It's just a matter of time. Right now, you can actually pick up, especially in the further north, you can pick up properties that are going to rent about the same as a property with city water and sewer. Slight variation, $25 to $50 difference in rental rates. But you can pick them up for $25,000 to $30,000 less.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that explanation, Jerry. That's very helpful. I have another question that came in, and I'm happy to answer this. Are these properties through Marshall Reddick, or do you have any connections, I guess, with other developers or operators? So these are not Marshall Reddick owned products. These are not properties that we own or operate or have any kind of exclusivity to the seller or builder. These are all most of the builders are either local or national builders that we do have relationships with those superintendents and folks there to have I would say top tier service, but there's no I guess listing side to that we are part of, right? They're basically all through third party or other sellers. Now, one thing that's really cool about Marshall Reddick and our services that we provide is we have thousands and thousands of past clients. So there are sometimes scenarios where we have maybe it's obviously not brand new construction. It's going to be pre-owned, but it could be a couple years old where a client may want to 1031 exchange or move out of that property, and we could have essentially off market inventory that we often try to keep exclusive for our own investors. So that's something that would be a situation where we have more of a hands-on approach. But no, most of the operators that we're dealing with are either local or national builders that we're working with. So there's that question. We did have another question regarding construction timelines and delays. Jerry, are you seeing oftentimes that there's delays going on right now? I know there's always weather and there's oftentimes, unforeseen situations, but if you can speak to that a little bit, that might be helpful.
No, absolutely. So through the pandemic, there was a period of time in the very beginning of I'd say probably for the first 12 to 18 months of the pandemic, that a lot of builders kind of overpromised timelines, not realizing the sheer amount of people that would be purchasing in the area. So we saw some additional timelines, usually about 2 months worth of build time. Moving forward, they reorganized, started bringing in a lot more stock, and because a lot of the spec builders in the area are also national builders, they were able to stockpile a lot of materials and kind of get everything under control when it comes to that side. So delays when it comes to our spec builders, like these that we've shown tonight, have been fairly on point. The average time is about 6 months, I'll say 6 to 7 months for a full build time from when they hit the market to when they actually, and they give them to us right as the initial permit is pulled onto it. We end up seeing, while we don't have exclusivity, I've built a lot of relationships with the reps here, because at the end of the day, they just want to sell their properties, and they know our clients are picking these up quite often. So I usually get a lot of properties before they hit that. The build times are, I'm going to say right now, between 6 to 7 months. After the hurricane, we saw a delay of about 2 months, and it was really just a scarcity of materials things, less than it was an ability to build. Thankfully, we had a lot of subcontractors that kind of came in from around the nation to keep things moving. So we saw about a 2-month window with some of the supplies, as everybody was getting everything fixed at the same time. But honestly, that's typically the length for most of the builders that we deal with. We try not to get wrapped up with builders that are, and there are some out there right now that are, they're 12 to 24 months with kind of a question mark after that. We try to avoid builders like that, primarily because somebody doesn't want to tie up their money for 2.5 years. We don't know what the market will look like then, and we don't want to tie one of our clients to that.
Absolutely. Well, Jerry, thanks so much for your time. We've come to the end here, and again, for those of you that didn't get a question answered, we're more than happy. I will be doing follow-ups, and we can get to those directly. I'll be sending email follow-ups. You'll get a recording of this presentation. But again, I want to make this as easy as possible to get a hold of us. This is my contact information below. Feel free to email me, is probably the best way to set up a call. You can always just try calling, but nonetheless, I will be reaching out to all you folks. But Jerry, I can't thank you enough for your time this evening. That was invaluable information, and we appreciate all you folks for attending this evening. And I look forward to chatting with everybody soon. So thank you guys so much for the time, and have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.